Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Why We Do It, the stories behind the stories in amateur sports. And not for the first time, we are very local, not that far away from where I am right now. Just actually, there's a river behind me here, the Water of Leith that runs through Blerno, and just on the other side is Jonny Seaton. Jonny, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
If we shout loud enough, we can probably hear each other across the valley here.
Yeah,
I'm very well, thanks, and great to have you on. And we've not known each other that long. We know each other locally. We've been in the kind of social groups that have crossed paths for a few years, but more recently we've been doing some running together. We'll come to that
not sure
as
if
part of the story.
not sure if it's ever been together. We've been involved in the same things with quite a considerable distance between us.
Okay, yeah. I'm glad you made that clarification. But we'll have plenty more things like that, I'm sure, as we go. So yeah, I've not known you that long, but we've done that together. We'll explore that more. I didn't know too much about your backstory, and I'm really glad we've got you on because I think there's quite a lot more in your backstory than I was expecting, and it's really interesting. And I think it typifies what this podcast is really about, which is understanding that for those of us who are beyond the half century, we've got big backstories, and for those of us who have been interested in sport and done lots of sport, and you've done lots of sport, as amateurs, that kind of tends to go just into our own kind of memories, and those who are very close to us. So it's great to pull out some of this and explore it with you and learn more about it. And there seems to be a chunk around your childhood, a chunk around school, particularly rugby, and then uni where there's a bit of rugby, but then it switches to rowing, and all of those are really interesting until we get to later on where boxing comes into it, and also the running bit where we've referred to. So plenty to explore, but let's start with something in the middle, which is around the rugby at school. So you were first team for 3 years at the Royal High School, first team rugby. I gather
Yeah,
you were hooker based on a point you mentioned in the notes.
yeah, that's right.
So you played hooker for the school. So talk us through rugby at the Royal High School and then the district stuff and how that played out, because there's an event in the middle of this that derails things at a really unfortunate moment. So just talk us through that bit.
Yeah, so my very early years were in Wales, so I always had this love of rugby, where you basically didn't have a choice. But moved to Scotland, and I played a bit locally, but in for a club my primary school didn't. But when I went to high school, started to play rugby again, and we were one of those teams that our regular fixtures were against the likes of Heriots, Watsons, Stumel, Loreto, and all these sort of fee-paying schools where, you know, they put out 3 or 4 teams, and we put out one in the year groups and struggle sometimes 2, and it was always a struggle against these teams. But I absolutely loved it, and I kept playing. And right in the middle of the scrum, normally got 1 try a year. It's not like these glory boy hookers nowadays who scoring every week. It was one from 5 meters, which by the time I got home was a 30-meter try. But we won against the other comprehensive schools and lost against the fee-paying schools. Tended to be the way it went. But I did enough to earn myself a trial for Lothian. I don't know what it's like nowadays, but it's in what you'd probably see as typically Edinburgh. You had a comprehensive schools trial first, so it was us and Trinity and Broughton and these just sort of comprehensive schools. And then if you were deemed good enough, then you got to take part in the trial against the Watsons and the Heriots. And then if you're good enough, then you got sort of pulled into the final squad before the first game. And you used to play the district games, so Edinburgh, Glasgow, North and Midlands and Borders. But there was also, again, in typical Edinburgh and Scottish rugby fashion, there was a President's 15, which was made up of the likes of Merchiston and Fettys and Gordonians and all these types of, the very, very expensive.
So that was another tier then. So you've got the comprehensive schools. You've then got Heriots, Jumel, Watsons coming together, although that might be different nowadays. And then there's a final level with Murky and Fettys coming in. Was that right?
Yes. Yeah. So I'd made it into the final group, and I was due to captain the finals training session before the first game. And that training session, it was on Sunday morning at Megatland. And on the Friday night, I went out with a couple of my pals, one of them who just passed his driving test. We drove to South Queensferry, and on the way back, he totally lost control of the car and wiped out one of the big thick walls you get as you come into Barnton on the old Forth Road Bridge on my side of the car. And I ended up with my pelvis broken in 3 places. All the fingers on my left hand were broken, and it actually went through the windscreen as well. So I ended up with gouges out of my hand. And my hand, as if to add insult to injury, my hand then, after punching out the window, then came back and punched myself in the face and broke a bone under my eye. So my left eye sort of dropped down within the socket a bit, which is why I've got what looks like a lazy eye, but it's just it never regained full movement.
So what are you, 17, 18 at this point?
Yeah, I was 17. It was happened on my brother's 20th birthday. I know that because he came down the next day as I was lying in a hospital bed. He was fully dressed in my clothes because he'd just jumped on a train to come down as soon as he knew. And I sort of woke up and said, "You're wearing all my clothes. Why are you wearing my clothes?" But he was a bit hungover at the time. But yeah, so it kind of put a massive impact on, because all I really care, I was never the most academic, but I loved sport and I loved rugby, and I felt, I felt at the time I was really good at it.
So you were lining up to captain this kind of Edinburgh district
Edinburgh
team,
side, yeah,
with all of these big schools all included.
Yeah.
Wow. That must have been devastating.
It was, and in fact, one of the first things I said when I came round in the morning was, I don't mind staying here for an hour or so, but we're playing Trinity Academy this afternoon, and I need to be available for that.
I gotta be there.
It's like, yeah, not quite sure that's going to happen. So yeah, it was pretty disruptive. We
can tape up your hand for the game, but your triple break pelvis, that's going to be a bit more tricky.
You're going to struggle to be mobile. So yeah, it was, what doesn't kill us makes us stronger and all that. And it was actually the thing that encouraged me up and to get moving more quickly than I probably should. So I returned I was back at rugby training a month later. Wow. I still had a limp, and I still had an eye patch on. But
jeez,
I just, I was so desperate to get back. And in my head, I thought, I can still get back into the reckoning for selection. I didn't, but it was, wow. It was.
So was this your final year in school, or
it was? Yeah. It was 6th year. And interestingly, my first game back was against Linlithgow, and the hooker from Linlithgow was the one who'd ended up getting into the Edinburgh side. Yeah. And he went on to play for Scottish schools as well, which was massively frustrating for me, because I was better than him. And I spent the first sort of 10, 15 minutes of that first game back trying to run around the pitch and absolutely melt him, to the point where the referee took me to one side and said, just calm down, calm down a bit. But
pent up kind of emotions and frustrations boiling through.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my goodness! Wow. Well, that's a heck of a story and a tragic story. I'm so sorry to hear that, because it feels like that who knows what might or could have been beyond that. But you didn't let that stop you, because there's plenty of other things that come through afterwards. But before we get into that, let's just go back very briefly to the beginning. Growing up, you talked about Wales, family kind of doing crazy things, and summer holidays. Just give us some of an insight into your earlier years and your introductions into sport when you were younger.
Yeah, so sports always played a massive part of my life and my family's life. My brother preceded me. He was also hooker for 3 years in the senior school, and he actually got through to final Scottish trials as well. My dad played rugby at school and early university, and I think post university he played for Birkenhead Park in near Liverpool, and then he went on to row, which is where I got I'll come on to that later, obviously, but that's where I got into the rowing side of things. But it was always a big part of our life. We'd on family holidays, we used to go to the Isle of Man every other year because my mum was from there. So we'd play tennis and crown green bowling and pitch and putt and anything that sort of kept us active. And it sounds almost embarrassed to say, but we used to have like seedings in the house for all the sports. So we were such a competitive family. And even things like back in the days when they had the TV program Superstars, like my mum didn't get involved so much in that, but after, like, me, my brother and my dad would do press up, sit up and squat thrust competitions, all wanting to be sort of Brian Jacks, who was the best at it at the time. So it's always played a massive part, and watching sport and watching rugby. My dad used to take us, and at the time we used to go and watch Heriots play because it was just crammed full of internationals, your Andy Irvins and your Bruce Hay and your all these guys from way back
in the 70s. And I'm just impressed that your dad was taking on the two of you. It was the two of you and your brother.
It was, he was
challenging you to squat thrusts and all these exercises. Bloody hell, I'm not sure. I don't want to do that with someone half my age.
Well, Jim, he was probably like at the time we were doing this, he was probably in his early 40s and still rowing fairly competitively.
Right. So he was strong.
No, he was playing squash at that point, so he was still keeping active.
Brilliant. Okay. And then primary school, was that in Wales or up here? When did you move to Scotland?
It was a bit of both. We moved here when I was in primary 5. So I always remember that in one of the afternoons of school, it was like rugby afternoon, and the whole school would be out either playing or watching rugby. There were no classes, and it was just everything was rugby orientated. Back then, it was the 70s, and Wales were, it was all
the big teams.
Gareth Edwards,
JPR, and all that,
JJ Williams, Gerald Davis, the Pontypool front row.
Most of them were in the British Lions in the 70s. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. But then we moved up here, and there wasn't any at Crammon Primary. We didn't have rugby, so I played for the football team, and then I joined Murrayfield Wanderers for my Sunday morning mini rugby, which was great fun. But I started getting torn between rugby and football then, because everyone in primary school, it was, as an example, when I arrived there, someone said to me, well, "Who'd you support, Hibs or Hearts?" And I was like, "Hibs." Which all right then. And then I sort of turned to someone and said, "What's a Hibs?" No idea.
Yeah, like, thank God I got that right. 50-50. Which one are you? But there was other sports as well creeping in addition to football and rugby.
Yeah,
I see swimming and badminton and tennis.
So badminton is one of those sports that you played at school, and then it was like, all right, these people seem, or 3 or 4 people seem pretty competent at it, so we'll enter a local sort of tournament. So played at Foresters in badminton. I played tennis for local club, which is Barnton Park Tennis Club, which I believe now has a paddle court, which is just the way things are.
The new trendy thing. Yep.
And swimming, we as all the schools used to take part in sort of local swimming galas. So I took part in that, and because every holiday, we tend to be in the pool as well, or the sea. I was a reasonably strong swimmer for that age. So when we had our trials, it was like, it was front crawl, back crawl. I could do, and I think I was the only one who could actually do back crawl. But so I was given that slot in the relay team. But just always used to love swimming, and my parents always used to say when I came back from holiday, I'd have a really brown back and a really white front because I just spend my whole time in the pool.
Yeah. So it seems like that family influence is spread across just this range of activities, tennis and badminton. These are not mainstream activities. You've got to be kind of going out of your way to find these things. Football, easy, rugby, probably so. But those are other more niche sports that you've got to be focused on looking for variety. Your family was clearly into that. And then as you transition into high school, we've obviously talked about rugby and the culmination of high school with rugby. But other things there? Did any of these things carry on through that, or did it just become about football and rugby in particular?
At that point, it was just rugby because I had that opportunity to. On holiday, when we went on holiday, I'd still take part in everything that there was an option to. But interestingly, my running career started in high school because.
I love the fact that you're emphasizing running in inverted commas there, and you kind of in the discussion we had before this, you were I can't remember how the phrase runner came up, and you're like, I would hardly describe myself as a runner, and I'm like, hang on a minute, someone who's done over 200 park runs, that's I think that qualifies. It's a pretty broad definition. So anyway, carry on. This is where your running starts.
Yeah, so it was. We were on holiday in the Isle of Man, and I was about to go into the senior phase, so fourth year of high school, and I thought, I'm gonna get a head start. I'm gonna go out running. So me and my dad went out. Used to go out running 3 or 4 times a week, and it was a couple of miles, and I was absolutely, never done running before, apart from on the pitch or at training. And then, this was in sort of July, so rugby season had finished in April. So I'd probably done pretty well nothing since April.
2 months.
So I decided to, this was it. I was going to do running, and then when I went back, we had pre-season training with the old slightly psychotic Latin teacher who took it. And for the first time, I wasn't sick on the first day. So it was the running training had obviously helped build something up. But I do still think of myself running in inverted commas, even though it seems that I've done it for now quite a long time. It's probably the longest running thing I've done.
Yeah, absolutely. And then things get interesting. You go to uni, and rugby's there for a bit, but actually things start to change.
Yeah. So I was still enjoying rugby, and my first year of uni, I played for the uni's first team, and also played for Aberdeen Grammar, which was the one next, the club next to the halls of residence. But I just thought, if maybe I should try something else while I'm at uni, because the level of the standard of rugby wasn't massively high. So I thought I'll give something else a go. My dad had rowed in the past and had rowed again, so I decided to give rowing a try, and
this becomes quite a big thing now.
Yeah, it became a massive thing. It became, like rugby in high school, rowing became the sort of be all and end all. It was there were the people were good fun. They were nice people. It was a mixed, there were women who played. Back then there weren't women playing rugby really. So it was a good social sport.
Okay, does make sense. Yeah.
It was fun, and but it's one of those sports where you can't just muck about at it. You can't, rugby, you can do it once or twice a week and you'll be this same level really. Whereas rowing, if you do rowing once a week, I'd say it's like you're rowing backwards, but you're meant to row backwards. So it's like you're rowing, it's like you're backing it down and moving forward. It's, you need to, all these, and you need to sort of train a lot just to tread water.
So let's throw up a couple. Let's throw up a couple of pictures. I'm saving the other picture for a second, but let's talk us through what's going on in this. I know where this is. I've only just realized. I recognize the background. That is Henley.
Correct. Yes, that was 1999. We had sort of seat racing in the club for this crew, and I'd managed to get in despite being the oldest one. It sounds terrible. I was the oldest one then. That was 27 years ago, so it was 1999. So I was a mere lad of 29. We'd trained hard. We'd come second at the Scottish Championships behind the crew that had raced in the Commonwealth, I think the Commonwealth Regatta the year before. So we'd trained hard. Our stroke man, the guy closest to the camera, he later went on to win at Henley, but he had flu that week, which I'm using as an excuse. But basically,
without that, you would have,
we came up again. We had the joy of coming up against Harvard in the first round, and they beat us. So we had a really fun week.
Probably sporting a few international Americans in the Harvard crew. No doubt.
They were better than us on the day, so deserved winners. But it was good fun, and it was good to get down there and row.
So this is later on than I thought. There's no date on this, but you're saying this is 1999.
Yes,
because the other picture is actually much earlier. And the fun thing about this picture that I'm about to put up is that you said that we made it onto the front page of the Herald sports section. And I'm like, oh, that's pretty good. And then the next few words, I only got half of the sentence. My brain was already heading off. You know how early on you were saying that rowing was a good social opportunity because rugby at that stage didn't have many women playing in it, but rowing had women. So it was a good place to meet people. And then, so your note says, made the front page of the Heralds, albeit due to a bird. And I'm like, okay, what's going on here? Made the front page of the Herald Sports section, albeit due to a bird taking off behind us. So here's the picture, and there's a duck. So this obviously became the arty picture of the day. So talk us through what's going on here.
So I think it was the Glasgow Rowing Club Sprint Regatta. So it was the rowing season. In the winter, you do the long distance races, sort of between 4 and 7 kilometers long. And then you have the main regatta season, which is, depending on the venue, is between sort of 1,000 and 2,000 meters, unless it's Henley where they have some random course length. And then in the summer, with an idea to keep yourself fit over the summer, they have sprint regattas, which are 500 meters. So me and Mark, who's sitting behind me, decided to do a pair, which was interesting in the summer because the locals of Glasgow aren't expecting people on the water and get up to all kinds of dodgy stuff in what they think is behind the bushes, but what's in full view of the rowers. But we were doing this race, and after
That's not why you ended up on the front cover. It was
no.
Very innocent.
But we were racing, and we did win the race, which helped with the headline. But the bird helped more. You know, it was just an opportune moment where the bird took off, and it was
well-timed,
beautifully captured by the photographer.
We can't zoom in on this on the screen, but I've zoomed in on the other screen, and it says pulling together. This is under the picture. Strathclyde University senior coxless pair of Mark Sinclair in bow and John Seaton stroke are unaware of overhead traffic as they concentrate fully on the job in hand at the Glasgow Rowing Club Regatta at Glasgow Green. And then what's also interesting is you're sharing the front page, and you've pushed them down. Gary Armstrong is down in the bottom corner there, who apparently had an awesome game against Hoyk on Saturday, playing for Jed Forest, and Mickey Walker, who was captain of the European Solheim Cup team, who just played at Dalmahoy of all places. So you've suppressed them, and then that's Andy Roxburgh, the Scotland football manager or coach. So who cares about them? This is all about Mark Sinclair and John Seaton smashing it at the regatta. My other observation is, you know how certain people are genetically kind of built for playing hooker or for rowing. Look at your legs, mate. I've actually seen this out on the running track and the park runs. That is a pair of calves. I tell you what, jeez.
One of my pals from the Henley crew always used to go, they're not calves, they're small cows.
It's tree trunks, I tell you, it's unbelievable. Doesn't quite show in this picture so much, but blimey, that just shows that you've got some power in your legs, which I'm sure was very helpful in both in the scrum and in the boat. So that makes a lot of sense. So we've jumped a little bit in with the pictures, but tell us a bit more about the kind of rowing. What else was going on? You also met up with someone else who's been on this podcast completely coincidentally, and I had no idea you knew each other. But an earlier episode, John Gildeer from Glasgow, you were rowing with him as well. But not that he's unimportant. There were some other pretty significant people that you were involved with in the rowing.
Yeah. So John, I knew John throughout. He was already at Strathclyde when I got there, and he was a lightweight, so he mainly
not just in the bar. You're talking about rowing.
mainly in the bar. No, but he used to mainly stick to sculling, but he was always a good person to have in the bow of the boat because he was fairly neat rower, and he wouldn't slow you down, and he was always really sort of fit and
still is very fit.
So he's a good guy. John went on a lad's holiday with him and wee Mark from that last picture, and Eric, who was another rower, went to Malta with them. But probably less said about that, the
exactly.
better.
I'm like, hang on, where's this going?
That's not what you want to know about. Why do we do this is probably a good heading for that holiday as well.
Why do we do this? Which is what you were all asking yourself on the plane back. Yeah, I'm sure that sounds like a good story for another time. Maybe we could do a sub episode. Get both of you on. But there was other people. Let's get to the other people. There's some significant people in some of the stuff you're doing, not necessarily in Strathclyde, but after that.
Yeah. So when I came back to Edinburgh, I ended up the captain of St Andrew Boat Club, who are the oldest boat club in Scotland, and were made up of basically people returning to Edinburgh from Oxford and Cambridge and wanting to carry on rowing. So 1846 they were founded, but while I was captain, two of the ladies in the club went on to massively eclipse everyone else, probably pretty much in Scottish rowing. So we had Catherine Granger, who was part of the club, who's Britain. I think she's still Britain's most successful female rower. And Sinead Jennings, who is an Irish girl who went on to win World Championship gold at at the World Championship gold in the lightweight single scull. And she also went on to row in the Olympics, which, is amazing for a club who rows on a terrible bit of water. The canal, which is bendy, and you can't fit two crews side by side.
Is that the one near? Is that near Watson's school?
Yeah, and Megatlands.
That's shocking, absolutely shocking piece of water. I cannot believe. Yeah. So I without distracting from your story, I rowed for a few years at about the same age, same kind of thing. I fell into it off the back of rugby. Rowed for 3 or 4 years. I rowed at Henley, which is why I recognise that course, apart from also on the telly. And when I've never rowed at St Andrews, but when I saw the bit of water there and the boats there, I was like, how on earth can you even start to do anything serious there? It's incredible.
Yeah, and if you think, some great rowers come out of Edinburgh. There's a Karen Bennett, who's a Belerno girl who I think was at Heriots. I think she either won a gold or a silver medal at the Olympics in the women's 8. She learned to row on that bit of water. She went down south, and I think she studied in London or somewhere. But there
and found a proper rower.
The good thing about it is it's your coach is always really close to you. They're right on you. They're looking. They can see every mistake you make, and if you get a clear run, you can have a good blast up and down for almost a mile.
I will say for about 10 strokes before you either hit some reeds or someone's coming the other way.
Yes.
Yeah, which must be very frustrating. But anyway, that's a by the by. I've always marveled. My son rowed for a very short period of time when he was at Watson's, and that's where they were doing it. And that's where the first time I realized there was a boathouse there and things going on there, and I just couldn't quite believe it. And then apart from all the things you talked about, and we've done it slightly out of sequence and slightly out of order, there's also some interesting stuff about international events that you were involved in.
Yeah, so you'll know from John Gilday, he loves a bit of kit. John will happily wear a kit every day of his life if he got the chance. If he could wear them under his gown in court, he would. But there's always,
So for those who haven't heard the episode and are probably not likely to, that don't know him, I should quickly throw in that is so true. And I don't know if you know this, Jonny, but just circumstance, just coincidental based on his reputation with you. But he and I competed together in the GB triathlon, kind of, more specifically the aquathlon swim run team. And whenever there was an event or is an event anywhere in the UK, that's not an international race, like in Glasgow University aquathlon, or most of us would show up in our club kit. John was always there in his GB kit, and he's got his GB shirts on. So definitely exactly what you said. Yeah,
that's absolutely. So any opportunity to go somewhere where there's the opportunity to get different kit is always an option. And I had the through people I knew through rowing, I had the opportunity to row in the head of the Charles Regatta in Boston, which is massive event and great fun. So I think I did it 2 years. 1 year I did it as the Free Radicals Rowing Club, which was just a random who they can get to row type thing. I always used to say the only people we fear is the antioxidants. That's a science joke for you.
Nothing was wasted at your MSc at Strathclyde. Then it all paid off in the end.
Absolutely. And I also rowed it as I then took a crew from St Andrew, but I got the entry in as St Andrew, and it was a mixture of St Andrew Boat Club and some of these free radical guys and the Nereid Boat Club in New Jersey. So I did that, and it was great fun. And Boston's a city that loves sport. The whole town come out for the marathon. They come out for
which is on Monday. And I've just I've just been talking to someone who's running the Boston Marathon on Monday. Actually, yeah.
The whole and I think it's probably even more so after the bombing a few years ago, but the whole town will come out and support that. And it's I think it's on a random day. Is it not like on a Monday or something?
Yeah, it's next Monday. Yeah. I don't know if it's always a Monday, but it's this coming Monday. Yeah.
Yeah. And so there's all like flags and everything all over the city, and it was really good. I think the year we were out big time, it was I think the Red Sox had just won the World Series, so it was quite a big night in Boston that night.
So if you fly out of Boston Airport, when you go through security to leave, there's all the banners. So you've got the big teams from Boston. So the Red Sox, the Celtics, the basketball team, the New England Patriots. So all of their respective kind of equivalent of the World Series wins or the Stanley Cups or the Super Bowl banners all around for those teams. So yeah, big sports there.
But it was the last time I went there, my wife came out, Mags came out as well, and we were going up after it. We were going up to Montreal where one of her best friends was, and I was like, doing the typical thing. You probably look up to see are there any. Well, nowadays, if I was going somewhere, I'd look up to say, is there a park run there?
Exactly. Yeah, it'll be sacrilegious not to know.
Yeah. Back then, it was like, oh, are there any rowing going on? And I saw there was the McGill Regatta. And what I didn't realize at the time was it was meant to be a university regatta. But I sort of contacted them and said, oh, can I enter from St. Andrew Boat Club? They just assumed I meant St. Andrews University. So like, yeah, fine. I said, but you can't. I said, look, can I just sit in a crew or something? Can I just make up numbers? And they said, oh, no, because it's a university regatta, they have to be all the same university. Right. So they said, oh, but you can do sculling. I said, oh, brilliant, novice sculls, perfect. Said, oh no, it's only open events, so it's open sculls. So I was like, okay. And this is on like.
Had you done much sculling? I mean, the difference between rowing in a 2 or a 4 or an 8 is big. Sculling is a completely different thing.
I'd done some, but I was still a novice, and it was too good an opportunity to miss. This was it's the rowing lake in Montreal is in the middle of the Grand Prix circuit. Mm-hmm. So it's, the setting's fantastic. So I said, oh, I need to borrow a boat. And they're like, no problem. I said, oh, can I maybe, have a little practice beforehand? And they're like, yeah, fine. So when I had a practice, I was very, very rocky. And then on the day of it, they called my race, and I saw my opponent sort of stand on the boat and push off standing, and then just sit down and row off, scull off. And then I sort of, bum shuffled my way across into the boat like that, shaking,
wobbling away like
hands like this. Yeah. And I got up to the start, and then we raced, and he went off, and after about 3 strokes, he went into steady state rowing, just like. So we managed to get down, and he didn't embarrass me. We got down, and I went over after and shook his hand and said, oh, thank you very much. Enjoy that. I haven't rowed very much. And in that sort of French Canadian accent, he said, I know you have not rowed much. I saw you get into the boat. I was like,
and he knew they could just cruise it up there.
Just so badly, even getting in the boat,
saving himself for the next round.
It was a straight final. So
okay,
so he got a race and a medal because of me. So
right, brilliant. There you go. He was happy.
Yeah.
And there's probably a lot more we could talk about there, but I want to move on to the other things. Just to wrap there on the rowing, you say you retired when you were 50, but you still did a couple of other fixed seat races.
Yeah, so I kind of stopped when I did it on and off after then. But like I say, you have to be competing or racing all the time.
It's a full-on thing, yeah.
To just compete, and it was probably before 50, but in the run up to turning 50. I did the Great Strathern boat race, which was it was almost like a Grand Prix start. You used to run across the beach and into these big fixed seat boats, massive heavy things, and there were crews of 4, and we did it
yeah. So there's just you're basically just circulating on the
arms and back
the big
the whole
hole.
way,
Yeah.
and it's 7 miles,
Like a large fishing boat thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we did it 3 years, I think.
7
The
miles.
first
7 miles is a long way to do that.
It is, and you'd swap around the people, but you'd be rowing for half of that on sort of not flat calm water. But the first year we did it, we won it, and a lot of people do it for charity and they dress up. But the prize was like dinner at the Creef Hydro, so it's not to be sniffed at.
Yeah.
The next year, apparently, there'd been a bunch of gillies, like who worked in the lochs up north, and they'd not done it that last year because they wanted to give the locals a chance to win.
Right.
And then they found out that these bunch of people from across in Edinburgh, or down in Edinburgh, had done it, and so they came back to avenge it.
Right.
And we had, that was horrible because it was neck and neck all the way. And then the third year they beat us, and then the third year we won it back. But but I think it was done out at the Water Sports Centre there, which mysteriously.
So not that long ago, I'm guessing, based on your supposed age and when you were looking at this.
I think the last time I did it was probably when I was 50.
Right. Okay.
So about 6 years ago.
And would you say that my experience of rowing for just a short period of time, 2-3 years, and I've done lots and lots of different sports. I've been unbelievably lucky, so many opportunities to do different sports. I would rank rowing as the most painful. I mean, it's particularly in I mean, you see the boat race, they're going for 19, 20, 20, whatever minutes. A 2,000 meter fixed course. When you're in a crew and the pace is being set by a stroke or the cocks, and you have to keep the rhythm, otherwise the whole thing stops. I'm not sure I've experienced pain like that in sport, but maybe it was my lack of experience. Does it get easier, or is it always just really, really hard?
No, it's horrible. It's horrible. But it's so I always it's funny because it's like it's like athletics where you get that real heart thumping on a start line, waiting for the gun or the whatever to set you off. But yeah, they're a long distance ones. So the boat race course is done in the opposite direction, around about the same time with the head of the river race. So I've done that a few times, and that's pretty sore. But I think because that's probably because we weren't as anywhere near that level, you're probably not, you've got 7.5 kilometers to go, so you're
pacing
yourself to some extent.
2,000 meters is a bit like a 1,500 meter athletics race. It's just flat out.
You sort of
most of the way.
Go off hard and you settle
and then you got to
into
just hold
quite
it.
a tough thing, and then you try and hold on, and then you take it up and take it up and take it up at the end. And
the difference being in a 1,500 meter or 3,000 meter race on the track, of which I've done plenty, and they are painful. You're in control of your own situation. So if you're absolutely just having a bad day, and you slow up and let things go, that's just you. It's your responsibility. You're the team.
Yeah.
You are the entity. In a boat, if you are absolutely blowing and there's still 1,000 meters or 500 meters to go, you cannot let everyone else down by slowing down. You have to maintain.
And you can't even go through the motions, because if you stop putting the power through the water, the boat skews off or whatever.
Or you'll catch a crab. Yeah. And then that's the whole thing, kind of shunting to a grinding halt.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, but it's weird. It's addictive, isn't it? That despite that pain, it's a fantastically enjoyable, quite frustrating sometimes, and difficult to get the rhythm and to get it together with everyone else.
But when it clicks,
wow, it's amazing. Yeah.
I remember someone describing a 6-minute 2K in an 8 is the equivalent of getting 8 people to run a 4-minute mile stride for stride together. That's the kind of thing. It's not, as you say, it's not just trying to control what you
Push
do. You've got
yourself to the limit
in time with everyone out, and you just can't even be a little bit out, or it just throws it.
Everything goes off. Wow. Good. All right, let's move on. Boxing. We've got a couple of pictures here. How did this come about? It's not the best picture. You can tell us what's going on here, and then we'll show another one of you perhaps after the bout.
So that's me in the black. I was doing a bit of another one for another day, a bit of stand-up comedy for a while, and they decided to do a charity boxing, white collar boxing. So I sort of contacted a few places, and eventually started going down to the Cabo Club down in Granton, and I was doing this twice a week for sort of 2 hours at a time. Absolutely fantastic sport, great for fitness, and by this day, after a few months of it, the comedians boxing had kind of died a death, but I was really enjoying it, so I carried on doing it, and then so I came home a few days with black eyes and bloody nose and happy look about me. That was after it, and basically they were having their annual boxing tournament, and there were a few other clubs involved. I ended up boxing a guy from our club as well, because they thought we were fairly evenly matched, but he was 6'4", so I spent most of my time like that, punching up.
You can see that here. Yeah, he's a bit taller. Yeah.
But it was great fun. But it was at the time, So I did that, and I did the fight, and I really enjoyed it. But my mother-in-law was quite unwell at the time, and spending that sort of 3 hours, couple of evenings a week, going off when my wife was having to sort of go and see her mum most of those nights, it kind of stopped a bit. So I stopped doing it, but I enjoyed it, and I had my boxing match. And
we started the whole thing with a story of the car crash and the impact of the rugby, but I tell you what, that car crash kind of probably works out for you in the boxing, because it's quite an intimidating look there with that. giving the guy the one eye kind of look. It fits with the character. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Like your calves in rowing, you got the eye look there for the boxing, just to kind of psych the other guy out before the match.
Yes.
And let's talk about parkrun to almost finish up. So running and park running, that is pretty significant. I mean, it's over 10 years that you've been doing parkrun. The 5K kind of voluntary run that happens all over the world now. And very recently, was it last weekend? You clocked your 200th parkrun. So that's pretty significant. Tell us about park running. And I guess this is a real why we do it kind of thing. There's an interesting kind of just like pull that drags a lot of people out. Week after week, and you are well in the week after week bunch nowadays.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I first dabbled in slow jogging many years ago, and I've sort of gone back to it a few times. I've done I think 3 half marathons. I stopped when I broke the 2 hour mark, because I thought that'll do. I've done some 10K races. I even did the rig race and clocked 55, which for any other 10K would be seen as quite good. But I was in the bottom 5 when I did it, which is just shows you the kind of race the rig race is.
Yeah.
But I did parkrun. I've done it for July. I think will be my 10th anniversary. But I kind of just did it now and again. And it's only since I joined the Belerno park runners that I've become sort of a bit evangelical about it. So I think
the Belerno Parkrunners is an outstanding club that would rival kind of the St Andrews Boat Club in terms of prestige.
absolutely, yeah, totally. So yeah, it's good. But it's I would probably do it anyway. But there's banter involved. There's good chat. There's nice people. It's nice to have a common interest, and it's good to sort of just.
If anyone is half thinking about it, just in a minute or so, elevator pitch. What is the Belerno Parkrunners?
So it doesn't matter how fast or slow you are. It's a group of people who turn up a parkrun on a weekly basis. You don't have to go every week. You can. There's often coffee involved. There's good chat. There's nice people. We have an annual awards thing where the most bizarre prizes get given out, as well as the ones so slightly more serious. But it's all in good fun, and it's. I'm absolutely serious when I say you don't have to be fast. I'm probably one of the slower people who do it, and I won the annual prize a couple of years ago, which is down to mainly down to consistency, and it's about doing as well as you can do and pushing yourself against yourself. It's the whole parkrun ethos in a formal tournament, guys, which is not what it's meant to be about. But
I think formal is stretching it. It's I'm in it as well, and it's a leading question. And I very much appreciate you coming in and all the help you've done with it, because you and I now coordinate a lot of the scoring. So and you do most of the hard work on that. So I'm really grateful for that. But yeah, it's not very formal. I think informal at best. And yeah, as you said, it's about benchmarking yourself, but using an age percentage. So it means it doesn't matter if you get older and slower, the percentages will work with you, and you can still better your kind of score, even if you're not running quite the same times as you were in your case, John, 10 years ago. So yeah, all good fun, and yeah, the major objective in it, and the why we do that is banter and fun and social camaraderie. So.
Yeah, it's about connections, and it's about you can turn up an event with 700 people at Cramond or 300 people at Oriam, and you know you're going to bump into someone and you're going to have a little chat, and then you can wish them well as they go off, and then you can get on and do your thing, and it's just nice, and it happens in all weathers, and
it becomes a good weekend routine early on a Saturday before too much else is going on. Not too early as well. So 9:30. Anyway, you've got an objective at the moment, by all accounts, with that goal.
Yeah. So, I'm probably going to be speaking to lots of people who are in the triathlon club now. When I say, my goal is to get under 30 minutes for 5K, which you're all probably going, sorry, 5K did he say, or 10? It's, I'm a 56-year-old man who's not seen under 100 kilos for quite a while. So if I can get back down to my time, which I set 6 or 7 years ago, I will be happy, and I will get there. And that's one of the reasons I do it. But I know that every time I go out running, it's helping me live a longer life. And interestingly, me again saying I don't run. My daughter's home for a couple of days in Easter, and we've set each other a challenge of running every day. And the first person to quit, has to run a half marathon within 2 weeks of that.
Oh, Johnny, we're gonna have a chat offline. That's a terrible idea. In terms of getting below 30 minutes for your 5K, doing that
not going to help
is going to just completely kill it. So we'll have a chat. I think
not necessarily. Depends. It depends. It depends, because I did some interval training today.
Oh, okay. And you built up your 5K doing that. Yeah. But now what you need is a recovery day tomorrow, so you can kind of build on that. But you're going to go running again. So anyway. Yeah. That's another subject. Let's finish with this. You sent me this. There's no reference to it in any conversation or notes. Tell us about this, and we'll wrap on this, because we're up against time now. So You do lots of different things, and here's another example.
Yeah, so I love scuba diving. Was in Egypt earlier this year and did a bit of diving in the Red Sea, which I'd never been to before. And
Once again, we can't tell the difference between the scuba tank and your legs because
yeah, they're still there, still small cows taking me underwater there. Yeah, I just love it. I love it. It's a different world. You go down and it's just the sound of your bubbles, and you see amazing stuff. But something that I'll carry on doing as long as I think I can.
well, and hopefully that could be a long time, because we're still at an early stage of our sporting career, John. It's plenty of time for loads more adventures.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much for coming on. It's been fantastic to talk through all that. I didn't know 90% of that, so it's fantastic to have that kind of understanding of your backstory now. And I'm sure there's probably some angles there we can use for banter in times ahead. But thanks very much. It's been really, really good chatting to you, and I appreciate you coming on.
No problem. Thanks for having me. Speak soon.
Talk to you soon. All the best. Just stay on the line for a second. Cheers. All the best. Bye bye.